I start with the question about when do you think the American Revolution started?
Citizens of Charlottetown and Mecklenburg County, assemble! Citizens of Charlottetown and Mecklenburg County, assemble!
Blood has been spilled in the towns of Lexington and Concord.
Over the course of the evening, the delegates met, discussed, and deliberated the matter of where and when to declare our intent to declare our freedom.
The Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence is a document, a short one, that was created to represent what was discussed at a meeting on May 19th of 1775 here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Think about the morning of May the 19th of 1775. You live in the town of Charlotte. You and the other 112 people or so that live there. It's not a very big place. And you wake up that morning, and as far as you know, you're a citizen of the British nation. You wake up the next morning, and somebody says to you, get downtown. Get to the square. There's going to be something happening at noon and you want to hear it. And you go down there at noon, and this guy named Thomas Polk comes out of the courthouse with a piece of paper in his hand, and he starts reading it. And when you get to the third resolve of that paper, it says, we are no longer British citizens, we are a free and independent people. This meeting was called specifically to talk about the problems that we were having here in Mecklenburg County with the government. We got together a group of people who were representative of the whole county. The point was to put together a petition to the governor of North Carolina that said, there's some problems here with the way we're being governed, we need that fixed. When a writer came in from Lexington and Concord, that had happened on May 19th, exactly 1 month ahead of this day. That man announced that American citizens had been killed by British regulars. The nature of the meeting completely changed. All of a sudden, it was not just to appeal to the governor to make things better. It was to say, if they're going to kill us, then we quit. And so that is why the document became one that is called a Declaration of Independence.
Color guard, stand color!
With liberty and justice for all.
The Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence is significant in this time period because, again, as things are manifesting and things are moving from protests and documents of reconciliation, the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence is really the first time the American colonists decided, you know what, this isn't working out, words are not going to fix this, we want to go our own way. You see lots of declarations before the Mec Dec that come really, really close, but then ultimately don't break that final link in the chain. They don't take that last step towards independency. And so the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence really almost gives permission to the rest of the American colonies that says, hey, if we can't fix this thing with the king, it's okay to go our own way. It also sets North Carolina sort of in the lead for these kinds of things. And you look at our license plates today, right? We talk about we were the first in freedom. And both on the North Carolina flag and on those license plates, May 20th, 1775 is the first date on that declaration that we're the first in freedom. And that's because Mecklenburg County decided, we're done, we're going to go our own way.
Mecklenburg County in the 1770s was still a very sparsely populated county compared to other places. They actually tried to do something quite representative. Proud of them for this. It didn't quite work, but they tried. They said, let the militia choose who will come. Now, the militia is made up of every man from the age of 16 to 60, whatever your social status. So they let the militia elect 2 people for each unit to send to this meeting. It was a shot at being a representative government. And so they got 2 from each of the militias, and then there were the organizers. Looks like about 10 people were added just to keep it organized, and that gave them the head of the whole county, which was Thomas Polk at the time, gave them a couple of good lawyers, gave them a minister, gave them 2 ministers, as a matter of fact. It gave them the people that you would want to have there to help keep order.
They go into session, they decide that because things are unreconcilable, they're now going to declare their independence from the crown of Great Britain and the British Empire once and forever. And so they decide that Mecklenburg County is no longer a part of the British Empire, and that's ultimately what the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence is.
The document sits there with 28 people, and they say we're going to get up in the morning, and as soon as people are awake, we're going to read this to them and tell them what's going on. Somebody says, don't do that. You want to get a bigger crowd. You want to tell as many people as you can at once. Send out the word that you're going to do this. Word gets sent out. And so they say by noon that day, there were as many people in town square as there were families in the county. So pretty much everybody sent a representative to see what was going on. Thomas Polk gets up on these stairs and he reads the 5 things, and people are huzzahing like crazy.
Huzzah! 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 Huzzah!
They're declaring themselves a free and independent people. At what cost? At what price? When they did that, that's treason, punishable by death and confiscation of property.
The Committee of Safety, after ratifying the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence, really sat back and realized the magnitude of the step that they had taken. Once you've taken this step, right, there's that old crap moment, that what have we done? But over time, they have fully embraced it, right? Because now that's the sobering thought. We've signed away our lives, our fortunes, and our honor in this document. If we win, we win. But if we lose, we're probably going to face the noose and the traitor's death, and go down in infamy rather than as important historic heroes of the past. So the next morning, they come back into session, and over the next 10 or 11 days, right? So the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence has cast off all British law and all British authority, everything at one time. So they realize now there's no law, there's no power structure, nothing in the county exists, because in the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence, they said, we're done. So over the course of the next 10 or 11 days, they come up with what's known as the Mecklenburg Resolves. What is contained in the Mecklenburg Resolves, it really reconstitutes a local government for Charlotte and Mecklenburg County, because we just threw the old government off, and now we need regulations and rules that says now that we are in charge of our county, this is how we are going to run and govern our affairs. So they take both of these documents and they hire a man named Captain James Jack, and Captain James Jack agrees, takes both the Mecklenburg Declaration and the Mecklenburg Resolves, a number of copies of both, puts them in his portmanteau or saddlebag, and he begins riding north to take it to the North Carolina delegates who are meeting in the Continental Congress.
Go with God, Captain Jack, and tell them this. We are no longer subjects of the British realm. We are free.
To North Carolina and freedom!
Liberty!
He does eventually arrive three and a half weeks later, goes and presents both documents to the North Carolina representatives in the Continental Congress. They tell him they're great documents, but the tree is not ripe, right? It's not, we're not quite where the colonies would be unified in declaring independence, because there are some colonies that have inhabitants that are more loyal to the king than not. And so this would be a huge step, and they know that to take that step means war, and England at the time is a powerful military presence. So they tell him it's not quite right, now's not the time, and he boldly declares that, well, you guys do what you want to do, deliberate however you want to do, try and gain the king's grace once again, but as for Mecklenburg County, we're done. We'll never be back part of the empire, the British Empire again.
You're here to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence.
Good afternoon, Charlotte, and welcome to your annual celebration of the signing of the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence.
for the last 250 years have celebrated Mech Day. And it has been a great celebration.
Happy anniversary, Mecklenburg.
The Mech Deck is celebrated in Mecklenburg County, certainly through many different events that happen. May is often a very busy time for events that celebrate Mech Deck, especially whatever week contains May 20th. It can be anything from the large celebration that we have downtown every year at Trade and Tryon, where there's musket fire, cannon fire, right? Where else are you going to get to see muskets and cannon fired in downtown Charlotte? And the CMPD watch with as much enthusiasm and joy to see those things as all the rest of us. There's a reading of the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence that takes place there at that celebration, so you can hear the words that the Mech Deck contains and also the spirit in which those words were written, right? And it's a very rousing document, and it's John Adams described it when he learned of the Mech Deck's existence in 1819 as perhaps the document that best captured the spirit of the age of revolution and the age of independency. So you've got the downtown section, or downtown celebrations that occur, many local churches, schools, the Sons of the American Revolution, Daughters of the American Revolution, all these various groups and chapters and organizations celebrate Mech Deck because it really is the history of us, right? It's the history of who we are or who we were so that we know who we are today.